after having peaked in December of 2021. But the shock of COVID-19 comes alongside persistent ongoing shocks from our changing climate. In the early months of this administration, a freeze left more than 10 million Texans without electricity. Last month's Hurricane Idalia destroyed homes that weren't prepared for
$20,000 in student debt for the federal borrowers. It came after both the House and the Senate passed a bill to take back Biden's debt relief that the president ultimately vetoed. So while Biden has announced a new plan to get borrowers relief during a different law, it's called the Higher Education Act, many Republican lawmakers don't even want to actually be carried on this. Biden acknowledged that delivering relief through the Higher Education Act will take some time because it requires the policy to go through a negotiated rulemaking process, which includes hearings and public commitment. Still, payments are scheduled to resume in October, but still, with interest accruing again in September. And while the Education Department announced a 12-month ramp on payments after the repayment starts, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is worried. Folks, more and more checks are expected to arrive for the Americans throughout the summer and fall. Lawmakers are agreeing to provide the low income with extra financial relief, and relief may either be in the form of a one-time check or direct deposit. But now, 2 rebate checks are going to be for tax policies. These checks are typically sent out after individuals file their annual tax returns and determined to be eligible for a refund or credit. The specific eligibility criteria for tax rebates is depending on tax lawmakers and regulations in the country. A large number of states have announced they will be mailing and depositing relief checks for many residents. During the recently wrapped legislative sessions, the lawmakers agreed to send tax rebates to people in Minnesota. And now the rebates are $260 for individuals with AGIs very high, but $520 for couples who file jointly. People within those limits will get an additional $260 per dependent for up to 3 people they can claim. Rebates are expected to go out via direct deposit, and checks starting this fall too. It's important to note that the lawmakers and taxpayers
as the world's currency that the world relies on. American credit rating will be downgraded. Interest rates will rise for mortgages, auto loans, credit cards, borrowing. Folks, watching at home, you should know this is the Republican position. Here's what it is. They won't vote to raise the debt limit to cover their own spending. Democrats voted with them to cover that spending the previous 4 years. They say Democrats should do it alone. But then they're threatening to use a procedural power called the filibuster, meaning that we'd have to get 60 votes, not 50 votes, to increase the debt limit. This would block the Democrats from meeting their obligations and responsibilities to prevent Congress from raising the debt limit. So let's be clear. Not only are Republicans refusing to do their job, they're threatening to use their power, to prevent us from doing our job, saving the economy from a catastrophic event. I think, quite frankly, it's hypocritical, dangerous, and disgraceful. Their obstruction and irresponsibility knows absolutely no bounds, especially as we're clawing our way out of this pandemic. Democrats will meet our responsibility and obligation to this country. We're not expecting Republicans to do their part. They made that clear from the beginning. We tried asking to no avail. We're just asking them not to use procedural tricks to block us from doing the job.
Economists are looking at Joe Biden's sweeping stimulus package and its impact on the country. The American Rescue Plan Act, which cost a whopping $1.9 trillion, had a slew of provisions tucked into it and helped battle the fallout of the crisis and plug holes in the social safety net. One of them is the Lewis Act, and this legislation was meant to shore up the finances of multi-employer pension plans, which are responsible for providing benefits to the retirees. And before the American Rescue Plan was signed into law, many plans were in a financial crisis. Beforehand, the House Education on House Committee and Labor warned that failing plans will enable to help the people who need benefits the most and they're owed to retirees, and that the funding for this program that helped so many Americans was running low. But now, according to the White House, insurance programs are estimated to become insolvent by 2026. It leaves around millions of people without the benefits that they had accrued through their careers. and a White House fact sheet had stated that in the latest cash infusion from the rescue plan, $36 billion went to the Central States Pension Fund, safeguarding 350,000 Teamster workers and retirees, including truck drivers and warehouse workers, from cutting to their benefits. So it's not the only proactive measure that the Biden administration has taken up to shore up American finances when they retire. The president had released a plan to address climate costs, draining retirement funding, and also their savings account. But now the relief in the pension comes to Republicans' potentially eye cuts to security. Social Security, that is, another major social safety net for the elderly and retirees. Social Security is already cash-strapped. So many experts are worried about the future of the program. And also, this Thursday, Chuck Schumer was reelected by his caucus to lead Democrats for a second term. It happened during a private meeting in the Capitol as the caucus chose to keep most of the pre-existing leadership team intact. In the wake of a better-than-expected midterm election, Democrats obtained majority of the House and the Senate. Only Senator Patty Murray of Washington, who will be the president for a while, will not serve on the leadership team anymore, after serving in the number of years, and now it's time for him to retire. But Chuck Schumer, on the other hand, and the rest of the leadership were unanimously elected by the Senate Democratic Caucus to serve again in Congress. The election comes as the party won a slim 2-seat majority over GOP in the 118th Congress, after Warnock held his seat in Congress earlier this year. This will be the first Congress in which Chuck Schumer will hold the majority again, and where Kamala Harris will be able to step in to break some ties and help Democrats pass the bills they need to pass. For instance, stimulus bills. And also Democrats re-elected the senators to in top leadership roles, and including Senator Dick Durbin as a majority whip. This year has been defined by the economy as a cycle of record spending. But it appears that record high inflation is not stopping Americans from spending money. Everybody has also caused the CEO of JP Morgan Chase to warn that all this spending is leading to less in Americans' bank accounts. It's a potential sign that a recession might
uncertainty. The legal aid managing attorney says the economic impact payment system wasn't set up with low-income earners in mind.
It's almost as if it's just occurring to the Treasury and IRS as they go along, that not everybody fits the kind of cookie cutter tax filer with a bank account that they were thinking when they created this.
Local 12 spoke to more than a dozen low-income earners to see whether they have received their stimulus check and a bank account.
So here's the news. The lawmakers are taking huge action this week. Democrats and Republicans are discussing plans that would help cut poverty in half, and states have established new crisis relief programs aiming to provide relief to low income. This comes with extra stimulus cash and extra money in their bank. But now many of the crisis tax benefits from the past 2 years, like the expanded tax credit and temporary expansions to the child and dependent care credit and federal stimulus payments, all ended in 2021. A community refund will be a little bit smaller this year. And some Americans